Fashion history often reveals surprising twists and turns, challenging our preconceived notions about clothing and its wearers. We tend to associate certain garments with specific genders, often without questioning their true origins. This is particularly true for items like corsets and high heels. These iconic pieces are almost universally linked with femininity in the modern imagination. However, a deep dive into their past uncovers a fascinating truth. Both corsets and high heels were initially designed, embraced, and worn by men. They served distinct practical and symbolic purposes for men, reflecting the societal values and power structures of their time. Understanding this evolution offers a richer perspective on fashion's dynamic role in human history. It highlights how clothing can transcend gender and adapt to changing cultural landscapes. Corsets, contrary to popular belief, were not initially instruments of female restriction or purely about shaping the female form. Their development can be traced back to the 16th century, emerging as a significant garment in European courts. These early corsets were primarily worn by men. They were designed to sculpt the male torso into a rigid, imposing silhouette, emphasizing a broad chest and a narrow waist. The construction involved sophisticated techniques, often incorporating stiffening materials like whalebone, wood, or even metal stays. This rigid structure was crucial for achieving the desired masculine shape. For men, corsets were a powerful symbol of status and power. The sculpted silhouette they created was not merely aesthetic. It conveyed an image of virility, control, and aristocratic bearing. A broad chest combined with a cinched waist was considered the epitome of male elegance and strength. Tight lacing, while perhaps uncomfortable by modern standards, was often a sign of wealth and leisure. It implied that the wearer did not engage in manual labor and could afford the assistance required to put on and take off such an intricate garment. This visual statement reinforced their elevated social standing. Beyond their symbolic significance, corsets also offered practical functions for men. They provided substantial support for the back, which was beneficial during various activities. Maintaining good posture was also a key benefit, contributing to an upright and commanding presence. These garments were particularly useful for men engaged in physical activities that demanded stability and support. Examples include horse riding, where a stable core was essential, or fencing, which required precise movements and a strong stance. The corset thus served both form and function for its male wearers. High heels, much like corsets, began their journey as a distinctly male accessory. Their earliest origins can be traced back to ancient Egypt, where butchers wore elevated shoes to avoid stepping in blood. However, they gained significant prominence and fashion status in 17th century Europe. Initially, the primary purpose of high heels was purely functional, designed to elevate the wearer's feet above the ground. This was incredibly useful in the often muddy and uneven terrain of historical cities and rural areas. They offered a practical solution to navigating unsanitary conditions. Crucially, heels provided a secure grip in the stirrups for horse riding, a vital skill for cavalry and noblemen. The elevated heel allowed riders to stand and maneuver more effectively in the saddle, offering stability and control during equestrian activities. This practical application was paramount. However, the symbolism of high heels quickly evolved beyond mere practicality. They rapidly became a powerful marker of social standing and distinction. The height of the heel directly correlated with the wearer's perceived power and wealth, signifying an elite status. Wearing heels also became intertwined with notions of masculinity. They were seen as a way to project authority and dominance, literally elevating the wearer above others. The higher the heel, the more imposing and powerful the man appeared to his peers and subjects. Kings and noblemen enthusiastically embraced heels as a tool to project their authority. They understood the visual impact of added height and stature. These shoes became an integral part of their regal attire, enhancing their commanding presence. Louis XIV of France, famously known as the Sun King, was a prominent and enthusiastic wearer of high heels. He commissioned elaborate designs, often adorned with intricate decorations, to further enhance his height and reinforce his image as an absolute monarch. His red-heeled shoes became a symbol of his power. Over time, fashion trends are inherently dynamic, constantly shifting and adapting to new societal norms. As centuries passed, the association of corsets and heels with men gradually faded from prominence. Cultural perceptions of gender and attire began to evolve significantly. Women, observing the aesthetic and symbolic power of these garments, began to adopt them into their own wardrobes. However, as they did so, the garments were adapted to suit women's evolving aesthetic preferences and cultural contexts. The original male connotations slowly diminished. The corset, once a symbol of male power and a tool for shaping a masculine silhouette, transformed dramatically. It became primarily associated with shaping the female figure, emphasizing a tiny waist and an hourglass shape. Its purpose shifted from male authority to female beauty standards. Similarly, high heels transitioned from their practical origins and male dominance to become a quintessential symbol of femininity and allure. While still offering height, their primary role became enhancing a woman's posture and leg line, contributing to a perceived elegance and attractiveness. This fascinating evolution highlights the incredibly dynamic nature of fashion itself. It demonstrates how clothing is not static, but constantly reflects and reshapes societal values, gender roles, and aesthetic ideals over time. What begins as a functional or symbolic item for one group can entirely transform its meaning and wearer across generations.